Welcome to today's episode. And today I'm going to be sharing a very important tip for new leaders or not so new leaders. I think if you are new or aspiring to be a leader, it's important that you don't make this mistake going into your leadership career. However, if you're already a leader, sometimes you may need a little refresher on what it truly takes to be a successful leader. Now, before I get started, my name is Yashika Lynn. I am the founder and CEO of the Lynn Group. Here at the Lynn Group, our mission is all around helping empower leaders to be leaders that lead with impact, but do it in a way that is not stressful to you, does not disrupt your well-being, allows you to feel like you have balance with your work and with the things that are important to you in your your personal life. So all of the things. And not only that, because we have experts on our team that have been in leadership for a long time, we also work with organizations to help them strategize dramatic improvements to their operations. So, I have my notes here. I have a few things that I want to get off my chest that are going to help you to be a better leader. So, let's go ahead and get started. Number one, you need to understand that the strength of your organization is directly tied to the strength and the value of the leaders within that organization. If you are paying attention to anything that's going on in this world right now, you're starting to see that um, companies are getting a little bit freaked out with all this news of the recession and everything, and really trying to do what they can to make sure that they have a little bit more cash reserves on hand. Typically, the first people to go when anything goes wrong are leaders, and unfortunately we all know that that doesn't work, right? But at the same time, your success is directly tied to the value that you bring. You may be handed a team that doesn't want to work together and all of the other things that come along with being a leader. However, you were hired to move the direction of that team. And so that is why your job is so important. One of the number one mistakes that I see happen in healthcare leadership is we tend to have a lot of education, right? Some of us have our MBAs, or we have our doctorate, or we have our medical doctor degree, or, we're nurses, whatever. So we think that because we've accrued or success and achievement in those various areas that we went to school for, that that inherently makes us a great leader. And I'm here to tell you that while your skills and your knowledge are important to the job that you do in healthcare, when it comes to leadership, that is usually not what matters the most. Good leadership is about the ability to influence other people, right? So you can know all of the things, you can try to be top in your profession. However, if you are a leader and you don't have the ability to influence the people that are working with you toward the mission, the vision, whatever it is, then you are not a successful leader. And what matters in a leadership position while you were hired is to be able to influence people toward the mission, the vision, whatever. So, too many leaders that I encounter, that I coach, that I go into organizations to help with, they're getting it wrong. And it is just like coaches, right? If it doesn't matter the cards that they were dealt with the players on their team, if they can't get those team members to activate and synergize and play together and win games, they go. I want you to not let that scare you, but think about that in a way where maybe some of the things that you thought that you should focus on as a leader are probably the wrong things. We tend to do that a lot in society and in culture. And so, for instance, there was an organization that I was sent in to help, and they were starting up a new department. And so they hired this leader, and she was very excited. She was gung ho. Um, because this was going to be an exciting time, not only in her career, stepping up into a different leadership position and leading this department, but also just new, exciting, technologically advanced work. However, She knew what she needed to do in her previous role. She knew her knowledge as a clinician. She was a very smart individual, and she could not understand why no matter what she did, no matter what she tried, no matter how hard she worked to get this team activated behind this new initiative, that it just crumbled before her eyes. They essentially bullied her. They reported her to the union. They did not respect her. And she would go home every night stressed out to finally it increase to where she was in tears all the time. And when I went into like pick apart and see what one of the major things that was going wrong was, she didn't understand leadership. She didn't understand how to influence people, as particularly learning the nuances of her team in order to activate them successfully to do what it was that she needed them to do, what the organization needed them to do, etc. And no matter how hard she tried to win them over, she wasn't doing it in a way that actually mattered. And because she wasn't doing it in a way that mattered, she was stressing herself out and butting her head up against the wall. So we had a lot of work to do around some of the things that I teach you in the Leading in Health podcast or here on our live streams. So, no matter how good you think you are, I want you to take an honest inventory of the people that you were put in place to lead and to see, are you truly able to influence them to get behind the things that you need them to do, that the organization needs them to do in order to be successful? I want you to think of it this way. And I want you to let your action step from this episode start to have you to reflect more on internally what's going on with you. Because if you've been listening to me for a while, then you know that I'm a big proponent of whenever something is not going right in your life, whenever you want to evaluate how things could be more successful, then the first place that you need to do is you need to turn inward towards your internal psychology and do some self reflection as a leader. Because just like this football coach, you could get handed any team. They don't want to listen. They have all these personal problems going on. They don't want to work, yada, yada, yada. They call in all of the stuff that you cannot control. However, you have to be able to create a positive change in a different direction if you want to be successful as a leader. So you can I'm going to call them excuses because they are, right? Even though it could be true, there's still a reason that you're giving for why you aren't able to activate your team, which is your job. So if you are making excuses for why you aren't on point, why your team is not on point, and if you're making the mistake of thinking your education, your knowledge, and your skills is the only thing, the only merit that you have for people to be able to respect you as a leader, or any of the other mistakes that we've mentioned in our top mistakes that leaders in healthcare make ebook, then I want you to do some self-reflection around things that I'm going to share with you that are in my notes. And I want you to, first of all, admit that you aren't a leader. You might be a manager. You might be managing things. You might, people might be able to hand you a system and you can make sure that system continues to move in the right direction. But if anything chaotic happens, changes, like healthcare most often does, and you can't keep it together, then you were probably not a leader. So let's start with our internal locus of control, because that is what most successful leaders focus on. And then you work outward from there. And so your internal locus of control is you going inward and focusing first and foremost, getting on point the things that you can control. Again, we are taught, especially in a scientific career such as this, that we need to look outside of ourselves for problems. And then when we find the problem, we fix the problem and then everything is okay. But that's not how it works when you're dealing with things that are more subjective and nuanced, such as people or relationships and things like that, which leadership entails. You have to start to look inward if you want to change what you are experiencing outward. And your internal locus of control is you making sure that the things that you truly have control over are on point. Because I mean, you can do all the things that I'm going to teach you right now, get on point, and your team could still suck. And there's nothing you could do about it. But I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, when you start to examine who you are, how you show up, your values, your intention, your goals, and you find that you aren't on point, and then even though you think those things aren't directly tied to the team that you're leading, the energy that you are bringing to your own life does directly impact your team. So here are some questions that I want you to ask yourself. Who are you? Do you truly do the work day in, day out to know yourself? What about improving your character? Are you intentionally working every day to improve your character? Do you have that reliable connection to your feelings that I've talked about in multiple podcast episodes and multiple live streams about having that perception to be able to tap into more energetic intelligence to help you understand what's going on with the energy of your team, the morale of your team, the sense of direction that your team is taking, not what they tell you, not what you think should be happening. Can you actually feel through your perception how things are really going? Are you striving not just for knowledge, not just to know your job, but for the experiential knowledge? A lot of people, they are super smart up here, but they don't apply the knowledge, they don't tweak the knowledge, they don't see if the knowledge that they know actually makes sense for their team. So, are you striving for experiential knowledge that comes from not being afraid to take challenges, right? Are you continually challenging yourself to grow? Not only in your professional life, but your personal life. Did a whole video on how even if you don't think your personal life impacts your professional life, it absolutely does. So are you doing that? Are you growing in your capability, or have you become stagnant and just rested on your laurels and your degree? And maybe every so often you take some CEUs and you think that that's all you need to do to be a great leader. No. um, so if you're not growing in your capability, then what is it that you can do to grow in your capabilities? How is how are you growing, evolving, and changing as a result of the degree upon which you challenge yourself to grow as a person? Because all these are important, and if you aren't growing, if you aren't knowing yourself, if you aren't learning, if you aren't trying to experiment and be innovative and make things better in your own life, in your own internal psychology, then you can't go to work and expect that other people that you lead are going to want to just activate behind you when, again, you're not on point. We all know that one leader that, her team will just go to the depths for her. And it's not because of the paycheck. It's not because they love their organization. It's because they love the leader and they can get behind that leader. And why can they get behind the leader? Because this leader is doing this work that you're probably not doing because you are focusing all of your energy on the wrong things and spinning your wheels and getting burned out. Now, for this episode, these are just some starting points that I want you to consider and think about. But if the way that you're doing things aren't working, and this is in any area of your life, if the way that you're doing things is not working, and you think that the answer is to continue to do it harder, does that make sense? That means that it is just going to be more energy expended and it's not going to work even more, right? You can't do it that way. So, you're gonna what I find is you end up exhausted, you end up burned out, and you don't have to do that because the good news is there are skills, there are tools, there are things that you can start to do and learn so that you can turn this around, so that you're not wasting energy, so that you're not feeling stressed out, so that you do feel like you can show up with your well-being intact and still be able to make an impact on your team, your organization, your company, your business, and add value. And so before I let you go, I want to let you know that the solution that I've created for you, if you're the right fit, is this. I just started a mentorship. It's an 8-week mentorship where I take you week by week through the things that you need to know in order to be a more successful leader, and also to reset your mindset, reconnect to who you are, learn about these things that I'm talking about that make you successful, like your values, being intentional, goal setting, cleaning it all up so that you can move into your leadership more fresh and more knowledgeable, and therefore be more successful. Take opportunities, take financial risks that positively impact you, your family, whatever it is that you care about in the long run, because you're not living your life in a little box and missing out on the life that you should be living. And this mentorship is very unique because most mentorships focus on, well, what is it that the knowledge that you need to know outside of yourself to be successful with budgets and all the things? And that's not true. Or they teach you how to activate other people. But you need to start with yourself first. So it's about self leadership, personal mastery, and then how do you then take what you learned and the transformation that you made and then impact your team through influence, which is the only thing that matters. If you want to be a good leader, if you're trying to be a good leader, if you're struggling to be a good leader. So if you want to know more about the mentorship, check the link with this video, or you can DM me and I'll send you the link to the page where you can learn more about it. We are going to be starting on September 12th, and it is right now, because it's new. I've done programs like this in the past, but this particular program is new. And so it is introductory priced. It will more than double the next time I offer it. So if you are wanting to have a mentor that's going to help you and support you and hold your hand and help you through some of the challenges and fears that you've been going through that have been holding you back, then this is your opportunity to get into a leadership mentorship that's going to help you to do that. All right. And I will see you in the next episode.